Let's talk about how this mindset can bring emotional and spiritual freedom to those living with anxiety. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe your worries about the future are doing more harm than good? What if I told you there's a way to live in peace without being ruled by fear and anxiety? Sounds impossible, right? But here's the truth. God, in His infinite wisdom, has given us a powerful key to freedom: the fact that He is completely in control of the future. That's right. The control isn't ours, it's His. And the more we trust in His providence, the more peace we find deep within our soul. God doesn't want us to carry the weight of anxiety. He wants us to live in the present and place everything in His hands. And the beautiful thing is, this freedom is more within reach than you might think. Now imagine if you could experience that kind of peace every single day. Just one step toward trusting God can radically change your life. But it's not just about believing, it's about living that faith in your everyday life. Ready to find out how? Let's explore this together. 1. Trusting God's control over the future. Anxiety about the future often traps us in a cycle that feels endless. But here's the difference. When we choose to trust God, everything changes. He already knows every detail of what's coming. He invites us to rest in that truth that He's got it all under control. Think about it this way. If you were on a flight, would you try to take over the cockpit, or would you trust the experienced pilot? It's the same with God. In Matthew 6:34, Jesus says, "Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." The message is clear. You don't have to carry this burden alone. And let's be honest, most of the things we worry about never actually happen. How many times have you lost sleep over a problem that never came to pass? Trusting God means knowing He's already ahead, paving the way. That doesn't mean we sit back and do nothing. It means we move forward knowing He's holding everything together. Here's something practical you can try. Write down your worries on one side of a piece of paper. On the other side, write down the things God has already done for you. You might be surprised by how much He's already shown up in your life. It's a powerful reminder of His faithfulness. Trusting God's control isn't just a decision, it's an act of freedom. When we stop trying to carry everything on our own, we create space for Him to work in unexpected ways. And with that comes a lightness, like the weight of the world is no longer on your shoulders. But that peace only comes when we learn to be fully present. Which brings us to the next key. 2. The wisdom of living in the present. Living in the moment is something many of us forget in the middle of life's busyness. But Jesus, with His divine wisdom, reminded us that today is enough. Remember how God gave the Israelites manna in the desert, just enough for each day? It wasn't just about providing food, it was a lesson in trust, to depend on God daily, without storing up anxiety for tomorrow. Can you imagine how freeing it would be to stop carrying tomorrow's problems today? Here's the truth. When we're stuck worrying about what hasn't even happened yet, we miss what's happening right in front of us. Try this simple but powerful habit each day. List 3 things you're grateful for. Maybe it's the sunrise, a kind conversation, or even just a warm cup of coffee. These little moments are God's way of reminding us that the present is truly a gift and it's meant to be enjoyed. When we live in the now, we become more aware, more present, and more open to hearing from God. And here's the thing: God often speaks in the quiet moments. But to notice that, we have to take that step of faith and trust Him one day at a time. If today holds that much value, imagine what happens when we keep trusting Him moment by moment. 3. Divine provision as an act of faith. When we talk about God's provision, it's hard not to think of the story of the widow in Zarephath. She was about to cook her last meal when Elijah showed up and asked her to share what little she had. It sounds crazy, right? But that step of faith unlocked an incredible miracle. God multiplied her resources and met her needs right in the middle of her crisis. This story reminds us that obeying God, even when it doesn't make logical sense, is the path to experiencing His faithfulness. How many times have you held back out of fear that you wouldn't have enough? Maybe it's in your finances, your relationships, or even your spiritual life. Here's a challenge: pick one area of your life and fully surrender it to God. If it's your income, try setting aside a portion to bless someone else or support a ministry. It's not about the amount, it's about your heart. God's provision isn't just material. He meets emotional needs, spiritual needs, and gives us the strength to face whatever comes. When we give Him what we have, even if it feels small, He makes it more than enough. That's what faith looks like. It's a daily decision to trust that He'll take care of what we can't even see. And in that trust, we begin to understand what it really means to depend on Him. 4. The transforming power of prayer. When you think of prayer, do you picture it as just a moment to ask for things? It's so much more than that. True prayer is an act of surrender. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed so intensely that He sweat drops of blood. He said, "Father, if it's possible, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." That moment wasn't just about asking, it was about surrendering to God's will. Prayer has the power to realign our hearts. When we're overwhelmed by worry, doubt, and fear, prayer not only connects us to God, it also calms our spirit. You don't need fancy words. Just speak from your heart. Lay it all out before Him. That's where the transformation happens, when our hearts start to align with His peace. And don't forget, prayer isn't just for asking. It's also a way to express gratitude. Thanking God in prayer opens the door for even more experiences of faith. Even in hard times, when you take a moment to thank Him, you start to see how He's already been at work in your life. That gives you strength to keep going even when the answer hasn't come yet. Prayer becomes your daily anchor. It's how you keep walking with God, no matter what life throws your way. 5. Peace that passes all understanding. Have you ever felt a deep, unshakable peace even when everything around you was falling apart? That kind of peace doesn't come from the world. It comes from God. Philippians 4:7 says, "And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." That means even in chaos, you can find rest because you know God is in control. When we understand that, we can finally let go and trust Him fully. The presence of Jesus brings a peace that doesn't make sense, and that's the beauty of it. Through prayer and time in the Word, you'll start to feel that peace more and more. Gratitude helps too. When we learn to be thankful in the small things, that peace becomes a steady part of our lives. But here's the thing: this peace isn't a one-time feeling. It's something we have to nurture. When stress creeps in, pause. Take a breath. Pray. Surrender again. And let God's peace fill the space. Being part of a faith community can help, too. Surrounding yourself with people who share the same faith reminds you that you're not alone, and that makes all the difference. Now that you've seen how trusting in God can turn worry into peace, it's time to put it into practice. What have you been doing to release your fears and anxieties to Him? Are you focusing on what really matters, living in the moment and trusting in His provision? True freedom from worry begins when you hand over control to the only one who truly has it, God. So, what's one step you can take today to live lighter, with more faith in His plan? And if you want to keep learning how to live without the burden of anxiety and grow your faith, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Together, we'll keep exploring how to apply God's truth to your everyday life so your life can be transformed from the inside out.